In this episode, I get to speak with Stephanie Ward, a writer of the ABA Journal and podcast host for Asked and Answered, one of the oldest legal podcasts. I discovered Stephanie through an article that I read in the ABA Journal about the future of the paralegal role, and this article was the highlight of our conversation. Listen in for more. Need an extra set of hands for a case that requires a little more investigation work? Check out our proud sponsor of Season 3, Affirm Investigative Solutions, where you get the tailored and personal care for your case when you need it most. With over 10 years of experience, Affirm Investigative Solutions makes the process easy. Set up a call, develop a plan, and then execute that plan. Affirm Investigative Solutions, the litigation partner that has your back. Hi, and welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. I'm Etta, your host, and I'm here with the lovely Stephanie Ward. And we're going to be talking about all things paralegal, like we usually do most of the time, but we're going to be kind of shedding some different light to it. We're going to add some statistics, some background, and really how that impacted through the pandemic before and after. So without further ado, Stephanie, if you want to introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, I am Stephanie Francis Ward. I'm a senior writer at the ABA Journal. Don't have a lot of experience writing about paralegals, but the few times I have been fascinating. For the most part, I write about legal education. I'm also a big fan of scam stories. But with this last piece that I did, I was surprised that it's such a hot paralegal job market because I've been doing this so long. I remember when paralegals were getting laid off and having a hard time to find work as well. It seemed like at one point the profession wasn't what it used to be, and everyone thought that technology might replace paralegals, but I don't think that is panning out based on this job market. So thank goodness, right?
Yeah, no, I love it. And that's kind of across the board, right? So everybody keeps thinking that we're going to get replaced by robots or technology or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, there are certain things that are given to us as a human, right? That gives us a different bonus. And I think what kind of separates us from the machines is the customer service aspect of it. Clients want that, personal experience. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we're ever going away. There's
Well,
always
a
going to
lot
be
of
a
times
part.
you guys are really good at keeping lawyers organized, right? And you can't, you know, a computer can organize you a little bit, but it can't make. You kind of need a human touch to uh,
Of course,
get the
I
files
completely.
labeled and in the right spot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love it because in your article, and for those of you that don't know what article I'm talking about, it's Business of Law. It was published in the ABA Journal and it's called In Demand. And I love the headline, which is thanks to hybrid and remote work, the paralegal market is red hot. And that's really what caught my attention because trust me, I've read plenty of the ABA journals and this was amazing how it was super eye-catching and it's not long, right? But it has a lot of information in it, which I feel like that's kind of your style, right? Where you just
Yeah.
want to pack as much information as you can, because I did read a few of other articles of yours, and it kind of seems to be the theme of that. So kind of elaborate on that and maybe the inspiration, because like you said, and you mentioned, most of your writing is on legal education.
Right. So my idea on this was just talking to friends and family who are lawyers, and we're just having a heck of a time finding paralegals. And I'd ask them, well, what are you going to pay them? And they'd say 50,000. I'm like, I found out later, oh, that's why you're having a problem. Right. That's not, that's not going to work. And I was surprised because I've known paralegals who were out of work, and it was just really hard. I know that I've known some paralegals, like with solos and small firms, that they might have been wanting to pay, they might have earned minimum wage in maybe 10 years ago, and that includes on the coast. So I was struck by, in this whole pandemic world, that I knew a lot of people that were really just having a devil of a time finding and keeping paralegals. So I poked around a bit, and it wasn't just my friends and family, it was everybody, it sounded like. And then we just got the data to back it up, because we can't just say that, right? It's better to have actual data you can point to.
Yeah, I love it. And then you said that, and this was actually really surprising even to me, that I'm in the day in and day out of the paralegal training and coaching and consulting. But you stated that it's expected to grow 12% between 2020 and 2030. And that's faster than the average for all occupations. So that for me was super impressive. What do you think is really being the force for this? Like, why do you think is such a high demand right now?
Well, I wonder, and keep in mind, I don't cover private practice too much, but one way that smart firms use paralegals, like for instance, say you're doing a closing here in Illinois, everybody uses attorneys, and you might have like a mid-sized partner that brings in a bunch of closings, or like, mid-level closings, and she can have her paralegal do the bulk of that, right? But charge for her fees, because normally that would be a flat fee deal. So it kind of, I'm not an expert on this, but I am thinking they have found a way to use paralegals that brings in, it helps. I'm thinking they found a way to use paralegals that helps their profits, right? Because maybe initially when the technology showed up, they thought, oh, this is great. I don't have to pay benefits. I don't have to pay vacation. I'm just going to do technology. But as you said, there's only so much tech can do, and you need people power. And it probably is helpful and can like whittle away the cost if you have a paralegal who's overseeing and organizing a lot of that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
absolutely.
my guess. I'm hoping so. You probably saw this too. Yesterday, today's December 1st, yesterday, Cooley Law announced that they laid off 78 lawyers as well as staff. So I am hoping the job market stays good, especially for paralegals, because I think you guys do some amazing work. And I mean, sometimes I think maybe paralegals were treated like second-class citizens, as some employers were not great. So what I loved about this story is that you guys you've always been doing great work, and now it's like it's thrown in these folks' face. I love that.
Yeah, we're finally being recognized, right? Which I
Yes.
think with the National Paralegal Day and each state, allocating a day for paralegals, it used to be where we would have to celebrate like National Administrative Day, right? Where it seemed like we were secretaries. And it's like, okay, nothing against secretaries. They have their place and they play a very intricate part in any business, but especially in the legal industry. However, we're not just secretaries. We're not here to just fetch your coffee. We're here to help you with the research, investigative work, and really, help you, I guess, pan out the strategy, right? Because the attorney will go ahead, create the strategy, but we're here to execute that for them as well. We're here to partner up with them. And I feel like for a very long time, not a lot of attorneys understood that. Maybe it could be lack of training, lack of understanding what paralegals actually do, which I've learned that recently because I've gotten a lot of inquiries lately about, well, what is a paralegal? So I'm like, oh, okay. So that makes a whole lot of sense as to how, this new phenomenon is coming.
Well, so I would imagine that smart lawyers who are good with business already saw the importance of a talented paralegal.
Oh, yes.
I am curious. Well, two things I'm curious about. One, if someone hires you and they don't really know what to do with you, how do you show them, here's how I can help you? And I'm also curious if with new lawyers, I don't know to what extent they would use a paralegal, but do they know? Because I mean, it's not like somebody's transposing your notes anymore. I guess somebody probably is, but that's uncommon. And that's not what paralegals would do anyway. Right. But I guess that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah. So I feel like, well, I guess that's where I play the role, right? So I do a lot of paralegal coaching and I train the paralegals to understand that lawyers are running a business, but they're also trying to be lawyers, right?
Mhm.
So that's a very different, those are two different hats, you know, the way you run a business versus the way you actually carry on a case for your client. And sometimes those worlds don't, you know, create synergy. Sometimes there is a big separation because and it creates unnecessary stress and all the good stuff, right? So we have to understand that we're all human at the end of the day, and we have to really be open and understanding to communication, right? We need to meet each other at each other's levels. I never like that word of being like, I'll meet you where you're at. Well, what does that mean? Are you above me or below me? Like, what does that mean, meet me where you're at? No, we have to meet each other at each other's levels, right? So if I'm seeing that I can do a lot more in my 8 hours that I'm here, well, why am I not communicating that to the attorney and showing them, hey, listen, I'm already done with all of this. I can totally help you with this case on this, and this. Would you appreciate that help and welcome that help, right? Or when you see the paralegal like twiddling their thumbs and not understanding, you know, why is, you know, they're not doing anything. Well, that's probably because you're not providing them with enough work for the 8 hour day, right? So understanding that communication plays a huge part in everything, obviously, but being open and honest up front and setting expectations, I think from the beginning, from day one, is really what's going to help that miscommunication, putting it lightly.
So you figure out what they need perhaps before they know what they need.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is basically the job, right? So the paralegal role, in essence, it was created for the lawyer to provide lawyer stuff, right? To provide a strategy, to do the research, to do whatever they need to do in order to carry on that strategy. The paralegal is supposed to assist them in executing that, in communicating with the client, collecting all the information, doing the research, getting the witnesses, preparing for the trial, all that good stuff, right? We are roll up your sleeves, let's go, you know, with the flow. And so understanding that dynamic doesn't make them lesser, just for me, it makes them equal, right? Because you need your left hand and your right hand in order for it to actually work. So I think sometimes that gets lost in translation. But to your point about the young lawyers, I have spoken to a lot of them, and I participate in a lot of the young lawyer societies and associations that there are here, especially in Florida. There's plenty of them. And I noticed that they're a new breed. They just get it. They understand the value of paralegals, and they actually participate in a lot of the paralegal associations just to learn more about them. They're very curious. They're very open to learning. They understand that they need to learn versus our traditional, more older generation. They're very stuck in the ways sometimes. So I think it just really depends. But yeah, you know.
Does the older generation still like to have a paralegal?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've worked with plenty of older generation, and I'm not talking about age wise. I'm just talking about like when they went to law school, right? We're not talking about age here. So it just depends on the years that they were seasoned, is what I call it, right? Just to paint a picture out there. But I think really that's what it is, and that's what drew me to this article, because you talk about the, you know, $50,000 being unrealistic, and I feel like that's another thing. I don't think that they understand there are other ways that, you know, paralegal services can be provided and that can grow with your company, right? So the beautiful thing about the pandemic that brought over was what you actually discussed in the article: remote work. You know, 1099 contractors, where you don't have to pay them the benefits and the taxes and all that stuff. They're taking that responsibility upon themselves. So I guess there's a lot of ways to alleviate the big issue here, which is affordability, access to, you know, legal services. And I think that your article really explains remote work and the need for that to be, you know, at the forefront. But it also shows, hey, listen, they should be paid what they should be paid. Because you say here in jobs in 2021, the annual pay was 56,230. And that for me is low.
And that's the average, right? It's not like
that was the average. So that for me was super. I was really, again, I was really shocked at that. I was super shocked. And I love,
that's my research assistant. Sorry.
You didn't do that. No, I'm kidding. But I love it. And I love that, you know, and this is all, again, because this talks about LA, Los Angeles area, which is typically a higher economy, right? Higher cost economy versus like the South Floridas and Alabamas and Georgias of the world, where, we tend to be a little lower. So maybe $56,000 to them is actually a reasonable amount. So I think it's also geographical, right? It just really depends on where you're at. But I love that the economy is kind of chasing it as well, right? Because we talk about.
I hope it stays. I'm always, I've been through the recession and I graduated from college in 93 and that was a tough market. So I see all the ups and downs and I hope that it stays. But I mean, also in terms of for paralegals, with the Cooley, back to Cooley, they said they overhired. So people might have been overhiring like associates. I'm not sure. People were overhiring paralegals. They might have been hiring what they needed. So I'll be curious to see how your profession fares with what happens in 2023. And I hope that you're still in the driver's seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about time.
Yeah, it's about time. It was a long time coming, and I love that you actually highlighted that here in such a prestigious magazine, right? Because everybody looks at the American Bar Association as kind of like the bar, right? Not, quite literally the bar. And so, every single, state bar or association that is within the legal industry really looks at the American bar. And I know I do anyway. That's usually where I do my research, where I find things, where I find people such as yourself. And that's really my go-to resource because I feel like that is where you want to be. That is the epiphany of the legal industry. It's where it combines everybody and brings them to this one platform. And it's what every industry needs. So I'm hoping that every other industry has something similar. But I do appreciate your time. And I love your dog. It's okay. I had to kick mine out too, because forget about it. He'd be licking me all day. But
it's been a crazy day. I usually crate her and I forgot. My apologies. I say hers as well, but she's kind of a jerk and she wouldn't apologize. So my apologies. I just wanted to add one more thing, and this may not be for everybody. I know in Illinois, there are so many paralegal jobs with government agencies. So if you don't care about having to be at work at like 8:30 every morning, and some of them do remote as well. I mean, they may not be as good at private firms, but that's a union job that's full time with a pension.
Yes.
And holiday hours. So, if anyone in your field is interested in that and they think government work might be right for them, that would be something I think I would be interested in if I was a paralegal.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially it's a great starter point as well, because it's a great introduction to the paralegal role, because you get exposed to such dynamic cases, because most of the government work is basically like general practice. You're going to get whatever comes your way.
You're doing
so it's
trials.
really good. Yeah, so it's really good to kind of test the waters and see what you really like, right? Because sometimes we have this idea, it's kind of like college, right? You start off with this degree in mind and then you change your major like 3-4 times. And so knowing kind of what you like and what type of practice and really what interests you and will kind of help your situation in your legal career further as well. So I love it because it's a great stepping stone. Some people stay there, some people love the ease of it, right? And so yeah, that's a great option as well. So anybody out there listening, that's always a great option. I'm all for it. But thank you, Stephanie. It was awesome talking to you. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. And I look forward to whatever else you have to write, because I love your writing. I do. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your kind words, both for me and the journal and the ABA. We always try to deliver our best to members. So I really appreciate what you have to say. That's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Well, until justice is served, everybody, have a good one. Bye.